When it comes to online reviews, there are the usual suspects. The person who yells at you through their keyboard. The guy who gives you 1 star because he got a parking ticket outside your office. Oh, and of course, the lady who wasn't 100% satisfied with the paint color on your walls. The world of online reviews isn't always fair. And chances are, if you're not actively asking customers to review your business, you're probably going to get more bad than good. That's why there's Podium. Podium has helped thousands of businesses use text messaging to collect hundreds of customer reviews on the sites that matter most. The best part is, it's super easy. It takes 30 seconds or less for your customer to leave a review on their phone, which is proven to get you a lot more reviews. To see a free demo and learn how Podium can help your business's online reputation, visit podium.com/podcast or call 1-833-276-3486 today. Mention this ad for additional savings.
Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. My name is Ben Tuine. Again, solo host for today. I'm going to make a big announcement here, folks. My co-host, Jordan Comstock, and his wife just had a baby girl. I'm looking at the photo now. Beautiful baby girl. Her name is Liv. And we want to extend a congratulations out to Jordan and his wife. Boy, this is a cute little baby girl. Wow. Jordan has a couple of kids, and they don't live too far from us, and so we get together from time to time. But we just want to publicly extend a congratulations to Jordan, and hope that the baby and wife are doing well. I went back and forth with him today on text, and I'm going to be heading to the American Fork Hospital here this afternoon to say hello in person and meet the little baby. So for those of you that have his email, if you can, send a congratulations to him. I'm sure that'll make him happy. But a couple of house cleaning items. So this fall, we are doing this meeting with Dr. Paul Taxon and his wife, Christine Taxon, on medical coding. So we want to invite any of you that are interested in learning on how to do medical billing to attend this. I'm going to be speaking about PPO fee negotiations just with dental insurance carriers. Jordan's going to be speaking about membership plans, and there's just a lineup of great speakers that are going to be talking about various different things as it pertains to insurance, both on the medical and dental side. One other question that I got from a listener from the episode yesterday, or the most previous episode, was, you were branded as a kid? No way. I didn't really realize that people were going to pick up on that. So to address that, yes, I was branded as a kid. I was born and raised in American Samoa. And this is not a traditional thing where kids get branded when they're young. The whole comment about strike while the iron is hot. Yeah, I did get branded, but it wasn't an iron. It was coconut twigs. And what they do is they put them on your skin, and they create a pattern, whatever your tribe is. In this case, this is an unofficial youth tribe that I was a part of. Well, I should say the people that branded me were adults, but they put these twigs in your skin, and they burn the tips, and it kind of like burns like a cigarette all the way down to the butt. In this case, it burns all the way down to your skin, and you can't touch it until it dies out. So you're sitting there for half an hour in excruciating pain until this stupid thing dies out. I don't know why we did this as kids, but we let the villagers, the adult villagers in our neighborhood, we wanted to become a part of their quote-unquote tribe, so they branded a T on my arm. So yeah, that's my experience with branding. Nothing official, nothing too scary, but certainly really stupid as a kid. So glad I moved on from that, and glad I'm here in the U.S. where I can call the cops on adults that try to hurt me. But anyway, moving on to today's episode, we got a great friend, an awesome friend and guest, Brian Hank. Brian, how you doing, sir?
Ben, I am so excited to talk with you. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. So first of all, congratulations to Jordan as well. I'm going to go eat lunch today in American Fork, so maybe I should stop by. But I'm very curious what the medical code and the billing code for branding would be. I don't know if you know that.
It's DSTUPID.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it was kind of interesting. I got an email about it. Said, you got to address that on the podcast. We want to hear the story behind it. But we did brand our pigs and cattle and horses.
Sure.
And, there was just a small iron just to kind of give you a couple initials. So, they never worked because people in the whole purpose of branding is to mark your territory on your cattle and your animals. But people would still steal them and eat them.
Wow.
Because there's no way for you to know where it's at, So it's like, why are we branding these poor animals when people are going to steal them anyway?
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, man.
So cool. Well, hey, Brian, I'd like to read your bio, in that way people know who you are. I know who you are. You're a good friend. You're a great accountant. But let me just go ahead and go through your bio and give our listeners a little bit of your background. So Brian Hank is a dental accountant and works exclusively with buyers of dental practices. He is the author of a cleverly titled book, How to Buy a Dental Practice, Volume 1. That is very cleverly titled.
Accountants are not known for their creative skills, so creatively titled is the right way to phrase that. Good job.
Hey, very simple. I'm writing a book called Root Canal. And
there you go.
Yeah. So Brian, you own he owns and operates a couple businesses here that work exclusively for dentists. You can check his website out, brianhanks.com, BrianHanks.com, and we'll post that in the show notes. So in the past, Brian worked for two dental CPA firms. Two dental CPA firms, and is a certified financial planner. He has an undergraduate from Brigham Young University and an MBA from the University of Michigan. So I know Brian. He lives here locally. I think you lived in. Did you live in Idaho at one point, Brian?
I did. Yeah, 5 years in the Boise area and several states before that: Chicago, Seattle, Dallas, Charlotte, lots of places. Wow. And but now we're neighbors, so I'm excited to be close to you.
Yeah, you live up in the Traverse Mountain area, and that Harmon's up there near you. That's where we go to purchase our tomahawk steaks. The big.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they only sell that there, and they also have aged ribeye there too. It's hard to find places where they have aged ribeye, and I've tried to age my ribeye here, but I just don't have the right environment to do it, like a cold storage area. We visit Traverse Mountain, which is up the street. It's still considered Lehigh, right?
It is. Yep.
It's like the more ritzy area of Lehigh, though. All the all the pretty people.
I don't know about that. I just know that anytime a Polynesian is giving me a grilling advice on where to buy meats, I'm listening. I'm taking notes right now.
So Brian has referred a bunch of clients over to us, a bunch of people to us to get insurance-related advice. And that's how we got to know each other. We met for lunch, and he gave me a copy of his book, and I promised him I'd go and buy one, so I did. And he also has another book coming out, which we're going to talk about. But so what I know about Brian is he's an expert transitioner in terms of giving doctors the best advice when it comes to purchasing a dental practice and going through that whole transition, which is what we want to talk about today. So Brian, what's here in Lehigh, for instance. They consider it is it a buyer's market or seller's market? I think it's a seller's market, right? I mean, there's
seller's market right now. Yep.
There's just not enough houses being sold, and so like in my neighborhood, houses here have increased in value just in 1 year by over $150,000.
Wow.
And it's crazy because two of my neighbors listed their homes. And they got offers on the same day, offers for what they listed it for. So I don't know how much, how if it's similar in the dental market, but what's the market like for buyers today in the dental industry?
Yeah, good question, Ben. And as you know, my specialty is buyers of dental practices. So I only work with dentists and I only work with buyers. And I can tell you that while there are some similarities to the housing market, houses going for higher and higher prices, going quicker and quicker. I would characterize the dental transitions market right now as healthy but competitive. And what I mean by that is that prices are very clearly going up relative to traditional valuation metrics. Yeah. And they're going faster. You're not seeing as many quote unquote good practices on the market for long periods of time, if they even make it to the market at all. And I think, Ben, I would call that, using my economic crystal ball, I'd say it's two factors at play. You're seeing a very robust U.S. economy in 2018. Things are good right now overall. And then I think demographics also play a role. You're seeing more and more buyers and dentists graduating dental school, and on a relative basis, fewer dentists retiring and selling. So you just have those. It's just basic supply and demand. When there's less supply and more demand, prices tend to go up. And so you're seeing that. But I will say, when I say healthy, what I mean is that there are tons of good opportunities for buyers out there today. No matter where you're looking, no matter what market, there is a good opportunity for you if you know how to look and you know what to look for. It's a healthy, but it's a competitive market right now.
Yeah, is that a function of a lot of dentists retiring these days?
Yeah, there are. I mean, you're seeing baby boomers retirement accounts recovering from 2008, 2009. They're seeing the numbers go up in their 401ks and their defined benefit plans and all of that. And so, yeah, you're seeing more dentists comfortable with the idea of retirement. And but if you look at the Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials, there are just more dentists graduating from dental school. Dentistry is a popular career right now, and you're seeing the effects of that play out in the number of folks that want to buy practices.
That's awesome. Are there any trends that people should be aware of in terms of listings, prices, and opportunities?
Yeah, I'll give you two trends, one around valuations and the other around how to find them. So let me talk about valuations first. Oh gosh, Ben, I'll tell you quick stories. I got my MBA from Michigan, and my hardest class in business school was valuations, and it was investment banking training, essentially what it was. And they're training these bankers for Wall Street, and the professor that taught the class is world famous. In his circles, everybody knows who he is. So he gets up in front of the class, and over the course of the semester, he teaches us 17, 18 different valuation methods, all of which are very complex, very difficult, and he just tears us apart the whole semester. We take the final exam, he passes it back, he hands us the papers, and he says, okay, you guys have now finished the class. Let me tell you how valuations work in the real world. In the real world, you bankers, and in the dental market, this would be brokers, substitute brokers for bankers. Right. The broker or banker is going to you're going to try to approach a client, and you're going to promise them a number. And that number will be based on nothing other than what you think the client wants to hear and what's going to get you the business. And then you're going to come back to my textbook, and you're going to select the valuation method from among the 17, 18 that you just learned, and you're going to retroactively apply it so that you can justify the number that you just told the client. So with that story in mind, the traditional rule of thumb has been that practices sell for somewhere in the neighborhood of 70, 75% of collections, right? So if a practice is collecting $1 million, the traditional valuation would be somewhere to sell that practice for $750,000. And what I will tell you is that those numbers are creeping up into the 80s. Yeah. Now, that's a broad generalization. That depends on the size. It depends on profitability, where in the country. I've seen practices recently go for 65 cents on the dollar. And I've been involved in a couple transactions in downtown metropolitan areas that are going for 109, 110 cents on the dollar. And so it's a wide range, but I would say the median valuation is increasing. Mm-hmm. So that's point number one. That's trend number one. Trend number two is the availability of options. And, having done this now for several years, I will say, and this is just me with a finger on my pulse of the industry. This is not based on industry studies or articles in dental economics or something like that. This is just me seeing what I see out there. Is I'm seeing fewer really good dental practices go through the traditional broker listing. It's listed for 3 months. They, talk to 12 dentists. That whole process is being circumvented in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, the good practices are going either directly to the buyer. The buyer has a personal relationship somehow with the seller, or the brokers know who the buyers are that are serious, and they'll kind of preemptively shop the practice to those buyers before it even gets listed. Wow. And so what I would say is, if you are a buyer and you want to buy a practice, personal network is king. It is absolutely king. Having a robust personal network of dental folks, and we can talk about what exactly that means, but dental folks who know you're interested in buying a practice is imperative to find a good, healthy, profitable practice to buy.
You know, the numbers that you indicated, 65 cents on a dollar, even 80 cents on a dollar. I can't, I've known these numbers for years, but it makes so much sense why investors are so interested in investing in dental, because you're purchasing practices as a discount for the most part. Do you ever see practice valuations where a single solo practitioner that's collecting above $1 million a year? Do you ever see those practices being sold at multiples, like a medium or large size business would?
Yeah, good question. And the answer is sometimes. It's pretty rare. And so I would say that you don't have a lot to worry about if you're that solo buyer. You just finished dental school, or you've been associating for a couple years, and you're ready to buy that solo standalone practice, single location, single doctor, a couple hygienists, something like that. You may run into a DSO or a private equity group that's looking at dental practices and putting in big offers, but it's pretty rare. So the answer to your question is, yeah, I've seen it, but it doesn't really happen enough to really be worried about.
Yeah, so like if a DSO steps in, I mean, I think it would be foolish for a DSO, if a practice is producing $1 million, it's not like here in Utah where California buyers come in and put a bid on a home where they're putting 30% more down than what the house price is listed for. Right. If I were an investor, I would always want to push for as much of a discount as I can get,
Absolutely.
But so in terms of the kinds of practices that are out there that are available when it comes to insurance, is there a good, better, best when it comes to what practices to select as it pertains to a practice that's taking Medicare or PPO or fee-for-service?
Yeah, great question. It's the classic conundrum. And I think buyers have this mental model of Medicare is the worst, PPO is okay, and fee-for-service is the best.
Yeah.
And I don't know I do know how you feel about that, Ben. I've listened to your podcast now for years, and there's some truth to that, right?
Yeah.
But what I would say is, as I'm helping folks with transitions and I'm calling my clients a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year after their transition, I would say be careful about that rule of thumb and be very cautious about how you apply it as a buyer.
Yeah.
Right? You have to know what your goals are as an individual and what you truly, truly want out of your career. For example, Medicare comes with a host of issues and problems to accept as insurance. But, Ben, just for the sake of argument, let's say that I'm a dentist and that my goal getting into dentistry was to help the maximum number of people possible to improve their smile and improve their oral health. I would say that you could make a pretty compelling case that a Medicare practice would be the best way to achieve that goal. I'm going to see the most number of patients, and frankly, I'm going to see the patients who may need the help the most. That they have, maybe on average more issues to look at, or let me throw an alternate scenario at you. Let's say I'm a dentist who wants to work on the most interesting cases. I'm a general dentist, but I want to see lots of stuff. I love CE. I want to get in. I want to do third molar. I want to do some, all the exotic, fun dentistry. You're going to get more swings at the plate with a Medicare practice than you are in other places, and you may get more opportunities to see the types of patients that you want to see.
That's right.
So I think that's my first comment is, yes, there's some truth to fee-for-service being kind of seen as the best. PPOs is somewhere in the middle, and Medicare is the worst. But I would say that that's a rule of thumb, and that you need to be very honest with yourself about what you want out of your career.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Would you add anything to that, Ben?
Yeah, I when it comes to making business decisions for me, I have a lot of investments and I do a lot of things on the side other than my Veritas business. And the number one factor that I look at in getting involved, either putting money down to becoming an investor, like right now I'm getting ready to write a check for a transportation business here in Salt Lake City. And the only thing that I look at is it cash flowing? Well, the first, I shouldn't say not the only thing, is if it's cash flowing, great. Now let's look at it into the details of the operations. And if there are any issues with operations, the other thing that I look at is, can it be fixed? So like a Medicare office, is it cash flowing? If it is, I would definitely, if I were a dentist, I would definitely consider a Medicare practice. And I know that goes against the grain of what I teach in terms of, the ultimate practice is a limited PPO practice or a fully fee-for-service practice or a majority fee-for-service practice. But the reality is it's really tough to get there. It is so tough. It's not easy. It can be done. And oftentimes the Medicare patients, these are for the most part senior citizens, and they have all kinds of dental needs. But you do have medical compliance that just makes you want to rip your hair out. Like, are you freaking kidding me? We got to do this 90-minute test, but and all of it is pertaining to medical, not dental. This is just so stupid. The government is just so dumb. And I hear these arguments all day long. But when it comes to Medicare administration, the way I would look at it as if the business is cash flowing and the operations are not as efficient as they can be, then let's find somebody that can help improve the Medicare functions of the practice that understands it. A single business owner can't do everything, as you and I both know.
Right.
But when you're looking at a business, I agree with you that Medicare, there's a lot of work. Our clients that do participate with Medicare, they're super busy, and they're doing all kinds of procedures from, lots of implants, lots of implants and dentures, lots of perio and all that. But at the end of the day, to me, cash flow is probably the number one thing that I'll look at, and then figure things out from there on whether I want to tackle the administration headache that they may be experiencing, and find somebody that can help, Yeah,
I agree. So I just made the case of why, you may not just immediately write off a Medicare practice. Let me make the alternate case of why 100% fee-for-service practice might not be your best option, right? I think most buyers, an associate that's been out a year or two, if they found a 100% fee-for-service practice on the market, Ben, wouldn't you agree that they might say, oh, sweet, I'm willing to pay more for this practice. This is probably an excellent opportunity, and I would consider this ahead of other practices, maybe that do collect insurance or Medicare or something like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, fee-for-service practices, they're relationship-based,
right?
And for every fee-for-service practice that I've seen where a younger doctor would come in and purchase, it seems like the attrition is much higher for the fee-for-service practices than for the PPO practice.
Bingo.
The PPO, you typically see some loyalty to the doctor, some loyalty to the in-network status.
Yep.
But a fee-for-service practice is more like a concierge practice where the seller has established great relationship. They've written letters of recommendations for their patients' children to go to college,
right,
and this and that. And they built such a rapport with those patients that once they leave, if they don't give a strong sometimes they do give a really strong endorsement for the buyer, but
yep,
those patients, many of them, more so than a PPO practice, many of them tend to leave. That's what I've seen in recent years.
I totally agree. A lot of buyers ask me, should I be worried about patient attrition? And yes, of course you should. And that's paramount in any business transition. The risk goes way, way up with the fee-for-service transition for the reasons that you stated. I would say a typical PPO, maybe 100% PPO practice might see somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7% patient attrition.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's going to be offset by 5 to 7% more new patients that show up due to the fact that there's a new young guy, and they're maybe doing a little bit more advertising, maybe spreading the word. For whatever reason, the patients down the street that didn't like the old doc now like the new doc, and they're willing to give it a shot. So 100% PPO practice, you're not going to see that high, but I'm going to say the median number that I hear when I talk with my fully fee-for-service buyers, patient attrition numbers 15, 20%, somewhere in there, 1 out of 5.
Wow.
That when the old doc takes off, they're going to take a look around and say, okay, I've been going to this guy for years, this gal for years. Maybe I should reassess and see what else is out there. Mm-hmm. And so it increases the risk. And what I would say is, if you are the average buyer and you've got, let's say you produce somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 700,000 a year, you're looking at a practice that's collecting somewhere between 800 and a million. I would definitely take a look at practices that first match your goals. And if your goal is something in the PPO fee-for-service range, somewhere in that range, try to find something that has fee-for-service percentages somewhere between 25 and 75%. There's a lot of reasons for that, Ben, but I think the number one reason is the poor state of business education in dental schools, and frankly, the experience level of associate dentists or first-time buyers in terms of running a business. It just increases that risk that much more. So that's my advice would be, as you're looking at the insurance in a practice that you're considering buying, or if you're a seller and you're considering dropping those last couple insurance providers in the year or two before you retire, take a second look. Think about who's coming into the practice next and who you might sell to, and make sure it matches your goals.
I think you're spot on with that advice. That's exactly what my experience has been. These days, actually, we get buyers, like I'm working with one in Chicago right now, and I need to introduce you to him. A couple of which are just in the process of purchasing practices too, and they're kind of getting education from Facebook. And it's interesting because there's so many different opinions, even on Dental Town and Facebook. But many of these younger buyers are purchasing fee-for-service practices, are now realizing, wow, I made a mistake by just being PPO, or not having a marketing campaign like to aggressively increase that new patient flow. Because of the reasons that you mentioned, the attrition was so high. Well, it was high enough to a point where there's no income coming in, you're just breaking even. And so many of them naturally find themselves either putting together an aggressive marketing strategy or joining some PPOs to help with the growth of the practice. And in the last 5 years, the fee-for-service practices that we know of, when you pair them with the right PPOs, they do okay. They grow. So in terms of like when it comes to insurance, like somebody's coming in to buy a practice.
Okay. Yep.
What are the common mistakes that you see from buyers when it comes to credentialing during a transition? Two very common mistakes. And the number one mistake is starting on the process too late. Yeah. And the number two mistake is delegating the task of getting credentialed to someone else and assuming that someone else is going to take care of that for you. So those are the two most common mistakes. Let me address the first one. And Ben, you may be able to provide more color than me, but I consistently see credentialing taking the longest of any other step in the process. I'm talking reviewing asset purchase agreement between lawyers, negotiations, getting the bank financing, getting life and disability coverage in place. Insurance credentialing, on average, seems to take the longest of all the other steps. Yeah. And so the number one mistake is, and it can cost tens of thousands of dollars when you're submitting out-of-network claims instead of in-network claims, is just waiting too long. Would you agree with that, Ben? Is there anything you'd add to that? Yeah. When you don't have enough time to get credentialed, you have to play the game. You have to almost always you have to offer those discounts in an effort to make sure those patients don't get upset. But that's right. Sometimes when you do that, it's okay because, like for MetLife and Aetna and some other insurance carriers, when you bill out of network, you get a higher out of network allowed amount. So therefore, the payment from the insurance is higher. But you want to play the game in keeping the patient's co-payments where they were before. Right. And many practices struggle with that. Sometimes the insurance carriers like Delta Dental or Blue Cross, if you're not in network, they're not even going to send you a check. They'll send it to the patient, or they just won't send it at all. So now you're spinning your wheels because 30 days in, you have zero cash flow, Yeah. And it's exactly. Like, oh, crap, how am I going to pay the bills, and this and that. And this is something, I did a podcast a couple of months ago to address the fact that when you do a transition, you have to consider the timeline for credentialing. DSOs, most DSOs require the sellers to remain on board for 1 full year for a couple of reasons. Number one, for attrition, passing the goodwill on to the new owners or the new doctors. Yep. And then number two, allowing the new doctors enough time to get contracted with insurance carriers. So often what you see in the DSO practices is that all the claims will go out under the seller's name.
Yep.
And sometimes people say, that's illegal, you're going to go to jail, that's so wrong. But the reality is if you do it right, it's not. Like in dental school, when you were a dental student, did any of the claims go out in your name? Did they go out under your license? Oh no, you didn't have a license, but you have to think about to the basics. In dental school, they implement something referred to as an attending doctor policy or doctor of record policy, where the doctor of record, who should be on site at the time of treatment to supervise the case, can appear on the claim form. And those are things that you want to be coached on the legalities of that, and of course making sure your attorneys understand that so they can write agreements in a way where you can implement an attending doctor policy in one way or another in an effort to help the buyer buy some time for contracting, because we see it is probably one of the number one areas of frustration for buyers that just don't know any better. They think they get the advice from somebody it's gonna be 30 days, 6 months later, and collecting 50% less than what the seller was collecting that month, month by month when you compare it. They're frustrated, like, what the heck did I just get into? And I don't know.
Can I address what I see as one of I mentioned the second root cause or the second mistake being just delegating to somebody else. I think that a lot of times, Ben, the 30 days turns into 6 months because the buyer is, maybe appropriately so, laser focused on something else in the transition, right? They're focused on meeting the staff, creating relationships with the staff. They're focused on meeting those patients and making sure the clinical experience is perfect. And so what they'll do is they'll talk to the front desk and say, hey, will you help me get credentialed with these 7, whatever the number is, these insurance companies, and let me know how things go, and take it from there. Yeah. And when was the last time the front desk credentialed a doctor? And
right.
Do they know what they're doing? And chances are they probably do know better than that buyer coming in, and maybe even the seller leaving, and they have a relationship. They're talking to the insurance company all the time. But you can't assume that the front desk is going to just handle things and they're going to be on top of it as you would be as a buyer. So what I would say is, sure, delegate, but follow up very closely if you're not doing it yourself. That's the number 2 mistake I see.
That's awesome. Do you have any resources available for buyers that can learn about insurance in a transition?
Yeah, well, the first, obvious, and the best is this podcast, no question.
Well, thank you.
And I'm not just saying that, but no, I'm not just saying that. That the level of and depth of knowledge and understanding here around insurance is incredible. And just to put a plug in, I think any dentist, if they told their spouse or their buddy from dental school, yeah, I'm going to a coding conference, that might raise an eyebrow. What I would tell you is, as a financial professional, looking at the financial statements and tax returns of hundreds of dentists, almost nothing in terms of the processes and procedures of your practice would make more of an impact than understanding the stuff that Ben and Jordan are going to do at this conference. So that would be number 1, is find out who knows a lot about insurance and learn from them. Numbers 2 and 3 for me, as I kind of look from my perch nationwide, helping different dentists across the country, is the doctor themselves in the front office should be your first resource. They're going to know who they need to be credentialed with, who's a good point of contact, who's been helpful at that insurance company, who hasn't. Those types of details are going to be your first resource. And so creating those relationships, again, if you're a buyer, boy, this is just a pet peeve of mine, Ben. I'm going to go to a little tangent here, but
Sure.
If you are a buyer, make sure that you get into that office as soon as you possibly can in the transition. Sometimes appropriately, brokers will really hold the buyers at arm's length. They'll say, no, you can't meet the staff, you can't come into the office, you can't do anything until that money exchanges hands. And I'm sure there's been a situation where that made sense, but too many times it doesn't make sense. It's simply the broker trying to assert control. And so do what you can as the buyer to get in there and create those relationships with the doctor in the front office to make sure that the insurance goes smooth, among other things. And then, Ben, maybe you can add to this, but the third resource that I would say is just your state dental board, study clubs, local groups are probably going to be some of your best resources. Yes, there's Dental Town posts and Facebook groups that can be helpful. I have found as much unhelpful information as helpful in some of those forums. So maybe, your mileage may vary a little, but those are the things that immediately come to mind for me.
No, thank you. Well, thanks for referencing our podcast. Sometimes we don't know the impact of what we say because we talk about it every day with our clients, and it's good to hear that there are some resources that are available here. But I'm checking out your website too, thebrianhanks.com, and you have all these tools for buyers that I think are amazing. Buyer checklist, guide to getting a loan, buyer due diligence, which is a huge one.
Yep.
So brianhanks.com, we'll post that in the show notes here for those of you that are looking to purchase practices. Or if you're not looking to purchase a practice, keep Brian his information there, because I'll tell you that the resources that he has are pretty amazing. So, Brian, in terms of transition and mistakes, are there any common mistakes you can advise our listeners that they ahead of time that they can avoid?
Yeah, I'll go back to the very first question you had around, what is the market like and what can buyers be thinking about? The number one mistake I see is just assuming that there is the equivalent of the MLS for homes for dental practices. There isn't. Brokers have listings. There's multiple brokers in every city, and a large percentage of dental practices for sale don't even get listed with brokers. So by far, the number one mistake buyers make is not having a robust enough professional network in the dental community that can help them find opportunities, talk them up to potential buyers, maybe meet sellers that were thinking about selling next year, but now that they found this great Ben Tuine, wow, he is awesome. Maybe I should sell my practice to him.
Yeah.
It's that professional network that's going to make the difference as a buyer. And sellers, if you're out there listening to this and thinking about selling your dental practice, I would say be very careful about who you list your practice with. Whether you do it yourself or you use a broker, and brokers, in my opinion, do add a lot of value. Just ask around. Make sure that you're really careful about who you use, because that can severely limit and impact the quality of buyer that comes to the table in your practice.
Yeah, that's
awesome. I'll keep it short, but yeah, those are a couple thoughts.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing that the who the networking aspect of things is. It goes a long way in every business. I think my career in dentistry was through networking. I wasn't even in dentistry before I got involved.
Yeah.
But the networking alone, I think whether it's the stars align or whatever, but the networking seemed to be the stars. Now you network, and then all of a sudden you find the right alignments that work. That make. Mm-hmm. We deal with a lot of buyers that they're purchasing from their older dentist, and they're buying it at a huge discount. Not great for the seller, but great for the buyer, and.
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome advice. So, Brian, let's talk about your new book coming out. So the book that you have out now, for those of you that do Amazon purchasing, you can get it on Amazon. How to Buy a Dental Practice, Volume 1. Tell us about the new book.
Yeah, I joked about my creative skills maybe being a little lacking in how I titled the book, but the new book is called How to Buy a Dental Practice, Volume 2. So
it's keep it simple.
What I found is that I got a lot of really positive reactions from the first book, and the first book covers a lot of the analysis steps. How do you analyze a practice for sale? What do you negotiate and when? And how do I submit a letter of intent, and when do I do it? A lot of those questions. What I found was I was getting a lot of questions from buyers who said, "Hey, Brian, that was super helpful. Thanks for helping me find the right practice. But I don't know how to go from here to where I feel comfortable running my practice. What are the first things I should be doing as a new owner? How do I make sure that I'm focusing on the right areas? What are common mistakes to avoid as a new owner?" And so with that in mind, I wrote Volume 2, and it covers things like, what to do that first 3 months in the practice. Yeah. And I'm going to give you a sneak preview, Ben, on the podcast exclusively for you.
Awesome.
But the answer is do nothing. Change nothing. And there I go into the reasons why you should change as little as possible in that practice in your first 3 months. And then I talk about creating relationships with the staff, how to become a good boss, financial mistakes, how to set up your payroll, who to get involved in terms of your team and when and how much to expect. And I hope it's a good resource. It should be out if we're recording this the 31st of May, 2018. I hope to have this out at the end of June. I've got a beta group of readers that are going through it now, combing for typos and things they disagree with. And in the next few weeks, that should be up on Amazon as well.
That's awesome. So I'm going to try to post your current book, How to Buy a Dental Practice. It's on Amazon. It's How to Buy a Dental Practice, a step-by-step guide to finding, analyzing, and purchasing the right practice for you by Brian D. Hanks. I'm going to post that link. And if any of you have any trouble clicking on that, just let me know, and I'll email you the direct link to where to purchase his current book. And then when his new book is released at the end of June, I'll also add that to the show notes as well. Brian, this has been awesome. I think, out of most of the listeners that we have, they're predominantly a younger doctor base that many are looking to purchase practices or sell a current practice and buy another one. And I think you're an awesome resource. I can't say enough about how important it is to work with. You're an accountant, but you're a dental accountant. And the one thing that I've known about dental accountants and CPAs and financial advisors that specifically focus on an industry, you're more than just an accountant. You serve more as a coach and a mentor because you know the numbers so well. And when you know the numbers in dentistry so well, especially as it pertains to transition, you tend to get the best advice from people that focus on that as a career, Like my accountant, I love my accountant to death, but he doesn't give me advice. He doesn't give me business advice. And that's something that I miss out on. That's why I use other CPAs that understand dental businesses, is simply because you're getting a lot more information than just the numbers or the tax filings and the write-offs. You're getting 1,000 times more value for what you're paying in terms of services. So, Brian, we're going to post all your information in the show notes. Do you have any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Well, number one, thank you for the kind words. And then number two, folks that are listening to this are getting a first-class education in one of the most important areas of dentistry, which is how do I get paid? And how do I make sure that I can continue to afford to help my patients? And so keep listening to the podcast. Ben is an amazing resource. And thanks for the opportunity to come on, Ben.
It's been our pleasure, Brian. Thank you so much for being with us today. For those of you that are listening, driving or heading to work or heading home, we wish you the best of success and be safe out there, folks. Thank you.